Salve, amice, and welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at Vergil's third Eclogue, lines 38 through 43. But first, last time in Vergil's Eclogue, here is the rubric. Let's go ahead and get started. And this is Menalcus continuing. Lenta quibus torno facile superadita vitis diffusos hedera vestit palente corumbos. In medio do signa, colon et quis fuit alter, descripsit radio totum qui gentibus orbem, tempora quae messor quae curvus arator haberet. Nec dum illis labra ad movi sed condita servo. There we go. Here we have him describing these two goblets that he's putting up for the wager. Our first word is an adjective, lentos, lenta, lentum. It means pliant or supple, so we don't have a verb. Quibus also doesn't fit. I should probably mark that though. It's either nominative or ablative singular feminine. How do I know this? Well, having read ahead, not verb, not verb, not verb, kind of a verb. This is the noun that lenta is modifying, as is also superadita. Vitis is vitis. Vitis, it is a feminine singular noun meaning vine, and is can only be nominative or genitive. So there are technically two possibilities we have here. Lenta and superadata are working together, with vitis owning them, the subject of the next line acting upon them as the neuter plural accusative. But lenta is an adjective, superadita is also an adjective. This is superado, superadere, so on and so forth. So it's a perfect passive participle. It needs something to modify. There's nothing in this line that it can modify. Quibus is the wrong form. Torno and facile, both of these go together, and they're not feminine, so that doesn't work. They're also not accusative plural, so that doesn't work. If we take a look ahead at the next line, we have diffusos, clear accusative, plural, masculine. Hedera, got another A, and this word is feminine, as this one means vine, hedera means ivy. And then we have our verb finally, vestit, it, third person, singular. This is going to be vestio, vestire, vestii, or vestive. I am not actually sure. It could just be vesti, but that would be unusual for a third io or a fourth conjugation. So I actually don't know if it's vestiere or vestire. Didn't look that up. Oh well. But this is going to be a present tense, active, indicative, and it means kind of what it looks like if you're more familiar with older English words. So to invest, to put something on. So we have cover, dress, vest. So it does definitely need objects. Hedera as the subject of vestit, or vitis as the subject of vestit, doesn't make much sense because we have Menalcus talking about, what was his name? Alcimedon? Yeah, Alcimedon, this great worker. Alcimedon needs to be our subject because Menalcus is describing what Alcimedon is doing. So that doesn't work as the nominative. So this, only two options, the only functional of the two options is ablative, singular, feminine. So that doesn't work. Vitis can't really be genitive owning either of these, as I've already said. There's no neuter plural, still no neuter plural in here. So what I think must be going on is that Menalcus he's making a declarative statement. There's no punctuation from Perseus, and I don't remember there being punctuation from the green and yellow either. So this is just a statement. There is no written verb, so we just assume a form of est. Superadata means added above. So maybe what we've got going on is this is added above what Alcimedon is about to do in this sentence. But to actually get to parsing these things, nominative singular feminine, quibus dative or ablative plural, and this goes for goblet. And I do not remember what word I used for not what word I used, what word he used for goblet, what gender, so give me a moment to check that. So the noun is poculum, which is neuter. So that is what we would have here. And then the immediate question comes up, well, couldn't lenta and superadita just be modifying pocula, the neuter plural? Yeah, it's possible, but then still we have this genitive having been added above of vines. I suppose that's an option, which I did not actually consider. So I suppose I will write down both the declarative statement and vitis as a genitive. But moving on. Except, no, that doesn't work. It doesn't work because we've got quibus in there already standing in for the pocula. So yeah, disregard all that. I'm wrong. I am wrong in being wrong. About being wrong. Whatever. Torno. Torno is masculine. It is a word that means chisel or lathe. Since we've got the O, this is the dative or ablative again. With facili modifying it, as I've already said, this is the third declension. The I should tell us that this is ablative, not dative. As to what this dative is, this would be the dative of advantage rather than an ablative again. So, dative of advantage or dative with this verb form. Moving on into our next line, diffusos means to spread about. Hetero we've already talked about, wested likewise. Polente looks like a present active participle, but instead this is just a normal third declension adjective. E going with hedera, ablative. And it means pale or yellow. And then corimbos, this is the word for ivy berries, accusative, plural, masculine because the OS there. I don't know what an ivy berry looks like. That should be pretty obvious. But to me, I mean, seen them, should remember. But palente hedera, what this is, there's apparently a type of ivy in Italy that has like yellow fringes on the leaf or something like that. That is something that I've never seen before. What the vine is, you got me. Probably grapes, but he doesn't mention anything about grapes. Oh, so ivy berries spread. He dresses the cups. Dresses the cups. In English, we have to say with spread ivy berries with yellow ivy. I don't know how you tell it's yellow. Maybe the leaf is distinctive enough that a shepherd would immediately know. Then we have a prepositional phrase in medio, so in taking the ablative due to the O. Duo does not go with medio. It is a largely indeclinable form. Duo instead goes with signa. These two together for, in the middle, probably, this is probably going to be a nominative plural, neuter. Another declarative statement. So in the midst of what's? Well, in the midst of quibus, the poculum, two signs. The green and yellow suggest that this is sort of a colloquial way of saying either on both sides of each goblet, or this one image is on each goblet. So two signs, one per goblet, two signs, one on either side. You can't really tell. Moving on into our next clause, though. Konon here, we have our first name. I'll get to showing what that appears to be from the Greek. This, though, will just be nominative, singular, masculine, Greek form. In the Greek, it's actually omega nu. So yes, nominative fits, et. And then we have an aside, quis fuit alter. This time, the quis is actually interrogative because Menalcas doesn't remember. Who was other? He doesn't remember. Who was the other? I don't know. Implied question, I should say. Nominative, singular, masculine. This is a third, singular, perfect tense, active, indicative, and nominative, singular, masculine. The green and yellow suggest, though, that a person is actually intended for the other person with Conan. There are two options they list. The first option is Archimedes. Who was a 4th century astronomer. So, should probably write that down. And then the other option is a guy by the name of Eudoxus, who was a actual contemporary of this guy, Conan. Conan himself, I think, was also a brain went blank. A astronomer. There we go. But as to the form of his name, who that is, who of these two, who knows? But the form of his name, it appears that Conan comes from, trying to find it on my notes. It's a problem with only using one color. Konon, from the verb koneo, meaning to throw up dust. So that's a pretty silly name, at least in English, but the present active participle form of koneo is a relatively common way of making a name in Greek that I've, at least for the ones I've run into. The idea behind the meaning, though, is that this is what happens when your feet kick up the dust as you're running. So hasten, he who hastens, hastener. He is apparently famous as a astronomer who was attributed with naming the constellation Coma Berenices. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that, but spelled I knew about Coma. I think she's almost never visible from my part of the world. Or I could just be misidentifying it. Anyway, there's that. Back to our translation. Who is the other? Conan, also descripsit, IT there. This comes from describo, so this must be a third person, singular, perfect tense, active, and indicative. He copies down radio. The O there tells us ablative or dative, but this case is going to be ablative because the tool. Singular radio is masculine, is radio radius. And this is, there are three possibilities, well, in numerous, but three that make sense, with a rod, with a staff, or with an olive. Since we've already got vines up there, putting an olive on the cup would make sense, but why repeat it here without any further description? Instead, I think it would make much more sense that as we have the, where did it go? The chisel, the torno, so we should also have a rod on which he inscribes the rest of this description. So that's the one of the three I'm going with. Totem is functioning adverbially. It doesn't have anything to modify, and it means only. So Conan also copied with the rod only. So this, I suppose, is meant to impress us. Qui gentibus orbem, and here we have another colloquialism, at least according to the green and yellow. I'm going to take their word for it because otherwise it doesn't make much sense. But qui goes back to Conan for nominative, singular, masculine. And then gentibus is dative or ablative. Plural, gens, gentis, feminine. In this case, I think it is ablative. He's copying with a rod. No. Oh, I'm not really sure. I'm not sure what function this one would be, but we'll get back to that. Orbem, accusative, singular, masculine. But what the green and yellow says is that gentibus orbem, especially since we've got tempora right here, should be translated either as the vaults of the heavens, So he's inscribed the different races of heaven, or yeah, again, I'm not really sure what the function of that is yet. Or the other option is the cycle of the seasons. So then this would be the races, the clans of the world, or the world with respect to the clans. And what are the clans of the world? Summer, winter, spring, fall, which was totally out of order. But those are the two options. I think it's a lot better than any sense I would try to make out of it. Tempora, as I've already said, links to these two. It means time, but in this case I think it means seasons. Since we've got the A there, we know this is in the plural, so this is tempus, temporis. Accusative plural. Why accusative plural? Again, it's taking descripsit as the verb, using tempora as object. Accusative plural neuter, which, quae, the AE, doesn't have anything other than the neuter to refer back to. AE functions both as the nominative and accusative plural of the neuter. And here we have mesor, further confirming the form of this, is mesor is nominative, singular, masculine, has to be the subject. Tying all that in, I don't think anything I said right there made any sense. Sorry. But moving on, no verb here yet, but that's because we got a verb all the way up front. Seasons, which, what's a mesor? A mesor is a reaper. I think we may have seen the reaper either earlier this eclogue or in the previous eclogue. Last two quarters were murder. I don't remember anything prior to them. Quae, again referring back to tempora. Curvus, us. Arator, or. These two together as nominative, singular, masculine. Again, an orator is a plowman, and a curvus looks kind of like what it means, curved. In this case, I'm going to go with a crooked, and he's crooked because he's constantly tilling the ground, constantly bending his back. And then haberet, the E-R-E-T, this should immediately warn us that we have some form of subjunctive. Habeo, habere, the infinitive, plus the personal ending is a third singular imperfect tense. So this is still off the present stem, active and subjunctive. Why do we have a subjunctive? The green and yellow in this case suggests that there is and that it's being used as purpose, and I'm not really sure why it says that. So Conan copied with only a rod, who the vault of heavens. Ooh, this might be it. Who could just be referring to the mesor and orator. Who the vault of heavens, the seasons which the reaper, which the crooked orator are supposed to have. I think that might be how it's meant to be translated, and why they say purpose, why the green and yellow says purpose. And the idea being that in addition to all this stuff, like the vines and the vine berries, it's in the middle, so it's running through the middle of the glass, or the goblet, or possibly the rim of the goblet, though medio. And then around that we have the four seasons, spreading across the entire side. So then rather than duo signa being one on either side of the goblet, duo signa means one for each of the goblets. Fine around, then the four seasons. Pretty cool goblets. I think that's what's going on. Then we'll get to this last later. Further correction. Got the punctuation that the editors have added in of a question mark. I wasn't quite sure it was there. Took a moment after writing all this down to think about it. And I believe it's there because of the quiz. So Menalcas is saying that Alcimedes gave him these goblets. Conan, and he cannot remember who else worked on them. But the work specifically that he's talking about here is not Conan's work, but whoever this other guy is. So who was the other? Who describes it? I think that might be what's actually going on there. Anyway, it's a guess. This has been one of my more awful translations. I'm sorry. Let's do this last line, and then you are free to go to better things. Nec dum, not yet. Elise, dative or ablative, plural. Labra, this is a noun. It's neuter, labrum. So we have the plural form, nominative or accusative. And here we see our verb finally, ad movi. The I there from this is ad moveo, second conjugation with I tells us that is the perfect tense. So first, singular, perfect, active, indicative. Taking the direct object of labra means that basin, tub, or the one that actually in use here, lip. So accusative, plural, neuter, lip. Lips to what? Odd, taking the dative, putting the object to the dative. No, singular, plural, neuter because the goblets are neuter. I have not yet moved lips. Whose lips? His own, of course, to these. So they're unused. They're still in their original packaging. Sed condita servo. Servo is the first principal part of this verb. Don't need to parse it then. Condita, this is an adjective. It's going to be matching the case of the intended object of servo, going with poculum, poculum in the plural, accusative, plural, neuter. And this word means hidden, secret, or close. Which makes sense since his parents are very judicious about their animals. They would probably be also very judicious about his own property. But then again, here he is about to wager it, so maybe it'd be better if the parents hadn't hold of it. Anyway, let's write this down. So last thing I want to add is that we actually have two golden lines in this. We've got linta, capital A, quibus functions as the C, torno, capital B, with its corresponding faculae, lowercase b, modifying each other, and then lowercase a. And if I was right about the translation, lowercase a again, so A, B, B, A, A. And then also in this line, we have capital A, capital B, vestit acting as the C, polente, lowercase b, corimbus, A, B, B, A again. All right, let's take a look at its own context. Supple vine added above to which goblets. Very awkward to say in English. With easy chisel. Why easy? I don't know. He vests spread ivy berries with yellow ivy. In the middle, two signs. Conan also, who was the other, who copied with rod only, cycle, seasons which reaper, which crooked plowman ought have. Not yet to these have I moved lips, but hidden I keep them. And he will regret those words. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope that in spite of me, this has been helpful for you. Have a good day. Well,